if you don't have a good sales process, if you're not able to bring in these SQLs to actually turn them into customers, that's very difficult to start investing in marketing because then you're just filling a bucket with a big hole at the bottom and you're just continuously emptying it out. If you're bringing in clients and they're leaving after 3 months or the product isn't working very well or different things like that, you don't want to be investing so much in marketing because once again, you're bringing people in for a cost and then you're actually losing them pretty quickly. You should focus on other things. So transparently, we could say, hey, just invest more in marketing, but we're not that type of business. We want to see the business succeed. And sometimes we understand that you need to invest in other things before putting money behind marketing. Welcome to Ad Nauseam, a marketing podcast by Manticore Marketing for small, medium businesses. I'm Pat here with Mike, and we're going to be breaking down modern marketing, share practical insights, and give tips to help small and medium businesses grow. Today, we're talking about the importance of marketing for small, medium businesses. Let's dive into it.
Right on. Yeah, I think just in general for SMBs, they often overlook marketing. I think it's kind of the last thing they think of and the first thing they cut, just in general. Most of the time they don't see much success in it and then it's quickly just chopped and then they get rid of it and then they never try marketing again. I think many, many times, Pat, we join accounts that it's been like years that they've done marketing.
Yeah, and probably that they haven't done marketing that well. Oftentimes you see some small, medium businesses, some owners, some sales teams that have a bad taste in their mouth, might be a little bit jaded from the marketing that they've experienced in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and unfortunately for SMBs, they are the number one target for marketing agencies to go after because they are the easiest entry point, lowest kind of fees on their side as well, but then also the number one most burned clients as well. So we've seen time and time again, marketing agencies do backlinks on the SEO side that are 10,000 backlinks that they pull from Fiverr that actually hurt businesses, do SEO that doesn't actually help, run ads across the entire world, even though they're in like a small town within the United States. So there's a lot of things where they've gotten burnt in the past, and it's very hard for them to trust marketing agencies again because they've already been burnt. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I think they take that to heart as well.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to be talking about it in a future episode, what like red flags are and what to watch out for. But I think what we want to talk about today is what makes a good marketing agency, and not only just an agency as a whole, but the importance of good marketing and what is good marketing for small, medium businesses. And I want to dive into it today, especially considering marketing done well can really bring you to that next level of growth when it comes to being a small, medium business. There's a bunch of different channels that are super solid for growth. We're not saying that marketing is the end all be all when it comes to growth, but when you look at a business going from small to medium, even oftentimes marketing has a big impact on that, whether it be on the positioning, branding, background side of marketing or growth and performance. Marketing really steps things up. You can get away with referrals, sales, and stuff like that, but marketing definitely has a strong part in that.
And I know we're talking about SMBs today, Pat, but what would be some of the platforms you would recommend for maybe a local SMB, a non-local SMB?
Yeah. And one thing to take into consideration is not all platforms are made for all types of businesses. It changes from industry to size to, stage of the business. And if I'm looking at, a local business that's, offering a specific service for a limited area, whether it's, within the city, within the province or state, depending on where you're located, you're going to be looking at different things. If I'm a local business, I'm likely going to be looking for different channels that support local services, such as, you can go the classic route that I think most people have heard of is just like Google Ads. You're going to be running some Google Ads for people searching for specific services. They might be a little bit more reactive. So you want to be at the top of the search results if I'm looking for, hey, I need this service right now. But there's also Google local services. You want to make sure that your business pops up as a local service. And there's a lot of different things that you can do with that. But it's probably one of the best ways for you to be there when somebody's actually raising their hand, being like, hey, I need this today.
Yeah, definitely. I think SEO kind of plays a good role into that as well. I think all of them essentially do the same thing. It's get found on Google. Google is always going to be a primary source of just traffic in general. If you're a local business, if you're an enterprise that works across the entire United States, I'm a big fan of Google in the sense that it's the highest intent, in my opinion. If they are looking for something and you can say, hey, I do that thing, it's a one to one, it's very high intent. Whereas other kind of display platforms and interruption marketing, so like Facebook ads, TikTok ads, LinkedIn, Snapchat, whatever else, we have to one create creatives, which for SMBs typically is a lot harder to do just because we need a bunch of creatives to test out, video to test out, a whole bunch of other stuff. Whereas Google Ads is just text. So
Yeah,
it's
that
really low effort to get in.
barrier to entry is super small. Like if you know a decent amount about marketing, you can jump in and have a really big impact versus building an entire campaign on a social media platform. It's a little bit complex.
And another thing just to call out as well is Google has programs where they give you free ad spend if you spend a certain amount of ad spend as well. So if you've never done Google Ads before either, you can get some free money to try it out. So if it's someone like us or even yourself trying to do it, you can at least have a bit more wiggle room and have more learning to then hopefully get success out of it.
And as somebody who works in a marketing agency, who works with local businesses, what do you typically talk about or introduce when somebody has either never done marketing before when it comes to their small local business and or they've done marketing before and it just hasn't really worked? What are your typical first steps when you start chatting with them?
Yeah, I think the first thing we kind of just jump into overall, this goes for any platform that we're trying to get on, be it ads or SEO. We talk about keywords. And just keywords for everyone that doesn't know that's listening is essentially what they're typing into Google or what they're typing into these search platforms to show up for. So if we're saying essentially, let's say a local business, local plumber near me, whatever it is, we look for all the keywords that have one high intent because, you know, plumber jobs, maybe they're looking for, a job, they're looking for something else like that. We're looking for the highest intent with the highest volume. And then we split it up based on that for SEO and for Google Ads. We look at cost per click, which is just how much it costs to get the click. So just that will help us define a budget and build everything else like that. But then for the SEO side, we look at keyword difficulty, which is just how hard it will be for us to rank. And we take all that data and essentially present the amount of keywords that we should be ranking for. And a lot of times, what a lot of people do is they just try to rank for everything. So they're trying to rank for 150 keywords, whereas like the top three keywords will drive 95% of the traffic. So just like, let's not focus on the rest. Let's just focus on a smaller amount, but a more focused amount that will drive more traffic to us if we can crack that code on those. And then for the ad side, same thing. We can spend lawyer keywords in New York, $150 a click. But like, do we want to pay for the highest or we want to pay for the most relevant? So that's what we're looking for on the ad side. And I'm just gonna throw it back to you, Pat, as well. Like, what are you looking for when we sign up clients?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions that you need to be asking when you're first talking to a client, especially when it comes to like somebody who's more local, a bit of a smaller size business, is to understand how they're currently getting their clients, what's working, what's not, and looking past just executing on a marketing side, building an ad, um, and to go deeper and understand, okay, these are the types of clients that we work with. This is how they typically interact online. These are the keywords that they're looking for, like you mentioned. And this is like what we're doing to convert them from somebody who's just showing up on our website and becoming a customer. So I typically like to not put the cart before the horse and put money behind ads to go to a website that doesn't properly have the form isn't even working. So there's a lot of things that I would initially talk to, analyze, and that's where like an audit comes in. We love to audit clients on the marketing sense to make sure that they have the foundation in place for us to build a campaign that's going to be very successful. Oftentimes, you might run into an agency or an inexperienced marketer who wants to do best practice or wants to do what's worked for something else. But you really do need to understand your client. You really do need to understand what's going on and what type of foundation they've built to be able to give them the service that they need. We've brought on clients that were looking to put some dollars behind local or Google ads that didn't have a workflow that was actually working that well, or they weren't even calling their clients when they did fill the form. So we had to audit, we had to sit down, we had to make sure that all the pieces were in place, there were no holes in the bucket. And then we could really make a difference once marketing got in.
Yeah, I remember early days of running Facebook ads. This is probably 7, 8 years ago. we ran some real estate ads and we got over 150 leads a week. And essentially we found out the client wasn't calling a single one of them. So it really doesn't matter the quantity of leads. It matters the quality of lead, and then if people are actually actioning those leads and making sure that they're not falling out of pipeline as well. And I think just would love to hear your thoughts about that as well, Pat, is like tracking and revenue as well.
Yeah, for sure. We're a little bit obsessed about tracking and being intentional behind our marketing when it comes to building out marketing campaigns, setting things up for our clients. We're not doing it for vanity metrics. We're not there to just like pat ourselves on the shoulder, say, hey, we got you a bunch of visits on the website, no matter where they came from, no matter who they actually are. We're looking to have a true impact. So we're always thinking about revenue. When you're building out your tactics, your campaigns for your clients or for your own business, you really need to be intentional behind like what I'm doing is actually going to have an impact on the bottom line and not just on those initial numbers. If I wanted to get a million clicks on my Facebook ad, I could probably do it. And I could probably spend a bunch of money doing it and it wouldn't really go anywhere. But what tactics, what campaigns am I going to put in place to actually drive revenue? That's a lot more important. So you kind of have to work backwards to get there.
Yeah, we love talking to clients about revenue. It's a very uncomfortable conversation a lot of the times, and they're always like, "Why are you asking me about money?" But we're trying to understand how the business makes money. Because if we can understand that, then we can help make more money. Because essentially, like Pat's saying, if we can track everything and we can come back to a dollar amount, we spend X, we got Y. Once we can show and prove that marketing is ROI positive, it's just scalable. It's a lot easier to scale it up because then we have the metrics and we have a playbook in place.
And I do think that marketing has changed over the last, I'd say, 5 years, especially with everything around data, around privacy. It's been a lot more difficult. But at the same time, I think it's put an emphasis on not just spraying and praying everything and putting a bunch of money out there and just getting results from volume. Marketing personally and with the businesses that I've worked with has changed, especially in the small, medium businesses, especially working in, the B2B sector, working with local businesses. Your the tracking and the understanding the actions of the users that are, hitting your websites, going in your ads has become much more highly segmented, highly researched, a lot more intentional. And I think it's had a really solid impact. You don't have the luxury anymore of spraying and praying. I really don't think that works like it used to. The platforms has changed, everything's changed, and they're going to continue to change.
And I think you said something really important as well, Pat, talking about tracking. I think there's a lot of old school marketing tactics that honestly work really well for SMB. I'm talking flyers, billboards, radio ads. There's a whole bunch of that where it's older school marketing that is still being done today, but there's no tracking behind it. So we know clients that have radio ads that are running. You ask them how many phone calls did they get, they have no idea. So just having tracking on those, giving the radio station a tracking number so you know exactly how many people call from that number. So you can go, we pay this much money for this ad, we got this many calls from it, and then this many calls turn into this many deals or this much dollar amount. I think just tracking as much as you possibly can so you can go, am I ROI positive with my marketing efforts is the most important.
And not only that, you're building yourself a pool of data that you can use for further decisions, for further tactics. You can remarket, you can build audiences, you can really understand what's working and what's not. There's so much that comes out of tracking, and being a data forward or a data first business is so valuable. I wanted to jump into something that you mentioned about like traditional marketing. And it's not that traditional marketing doesn't work anymore. It's just that in the past, it's the only way that you could really get your name out there. And people's behaviors have changed over time. They've gone from listening to the radio, watching daytime television, commercials on the TV, Super Bowl commercials, TV, movies, whatever. Now people are chronically online. They're doing all the research online, but they're starting to use AI as their search engine. How would you say, like, how has this change impacted the way small, medium businesses need to market to these users? And what do you expect is kind of shifting away from the traditional ways?
Yeah, I think like the old school method was, you know, I'm gonna go to the newspaper. That's older, like way older as well. I think it's still like recent, like especially within my my time as well. You like find newspaper ads, you read them through there, TV, you're looking through it. But this actually opens the door because SMBs have a stronger play because who could afford TV commercials back in the day? Yes, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, you can get some local TV ads, but they still cost a pretty penny compared to everything else. But the ones that would do the best were the massive corporations because they had the Super Bowl commercials that were $1 million a second or whatever the cost is there. Whereas local businesses now, it's, I would say, almost even playing field. Yes, you still have the behemoths that are spending millions of dollars in ad spend every single month, but maybe your smaller town, they don't have that much of a grasp on because you are offering something in that specific region around specific keywords, around specific things, doing other things as well. So it gives you more of an opportunity as well. Whereas old traditional marketing was, yes, it's, I think it still can work. And I think every marketing can work. But with the new kind of change, I think it's giving everyone almost not, I wouldn't say a fair playing field just because of the budgets, but an
A fighting
even-ish,
chance.
a fighting chance. Like before, it was just like they would absolutely dominate you and crush you. Now, at least we can show up within our specific sector, and that's almost for any industry. And like we're able to fight for it as long as it's profitable. That's the main thing as well.
Yeah, what's interesting is because of the way kind of online and digital marketing works is you can have a super niche business or a business that's very specific to one, service or product or catered to a specific audience. And because of the way that we can target, because of the way that we can build our campaigns, you can actually spend a good amount of money on a small audience instead of having to spend a ton of money on a massive audience because you can't really segment down and just hope you're capturing people that are tuning in to Seinfeld on TV in the 90s, you know? But now it's like, hey, you're this audience, you're spending your time online doing this, you're looking up these specific keywords. Well, I don't have to pay for 1,000 other individuals that are not relevant to look at my ad. I can actually dial it in.
Yeah, the shotgun approach versus the sniper approach for
Exactly.
marketing in marketing terms is definitely more relevant within digital marketing as well. And then also like from that as well, expanding into remarketing campaigns from now I'm going even more narrow from people taking actions on my website, and then even more narrow after that of people taking purchasing actions on my website or previous clients as well. So you can directly market to almost anyone if you have the tracking in place.
I want to take a little sidestep here, but going back into chatting about, smaller businesses, why do you think that marketing is often like underestimated by smaller businesses?
I think the cost behind it is often like just frowned upon. Uh, when we're dealing with like larger businesses, we normally see that we're taking big swings and like it's okay if we fail because the budget's there and we have it. I think for smaller businesses, it's a keep the lights on kind of situation. And we're dealing with livelihoods as well. So it's a lot more, we need to make that $1,000 work a lot more than we need to make that $1 million work because the $1,000 is, it's a make or break for the person. When we start going into like, I would say bigger, smaller businesses or even medium sized businesses, it doesn't matter as much, but it still is a direct. I've always done it this way. I've been profitable this way. My business is slowing down. I need to start getting a kick up, but I don't want to throw $5,000 at this thing, $10,000 at this thing, and it not work because that's going to be devastating for me, which
Yeah,
I completely understand. And again, like we have to, as a marketing agency, figure out the best way to spend that money, but we also always find waste in other places.
for sure. I think one of the things that makes it hard too is like you get so much direct feedback when you're working with sales or when you're getting referrals or people are showing up at your front door asking for a service when it's you're doing marketing, especially if your tracking is not that well established. It's a little bit of a black box. So oftentimes, yes, you might see there's some results coming directly from it, or if tracking is really good, you can see that there's secondary impacts and or it's having an effect on long term when it comes to marketing. But what these businesses I think need to take into consideration is when you're doing marketing, only a small portion of it is direct performance marketing that's got a one-to-one correlation between I clicked on an ad or I showed up on your website and I converted. Your website, your advertising, your entire marketing strategy ends up being your storefront, your personality, your image. And that's super important for long term growth. I think if you're just relying on that like immediate gratification of bringing in a client, you're not building that long term outside of offering a good service and building retention and things like that. You need to be top of mind. You need to be available when they do raise their hand.
Yeah. And I think the shift is like previously it was brand awareness. If people, if you build it, they will come, but they have to know who you are. Now it's you're competing with 100 other people. What makes you different and how can you differentiate yourself like as much as possible? And like Pat's saying, it's you, the owner, it's how you interact with them, it's everything else like that. So just having some differentiations of like what makes you stand out, which you can highlight within marketing is a good way to do it. There's something I want to kind of go back to as well, Pat, which is I know we kind of talked about sales and revenue and tracking and everything else. I want to talk about MQL and SQL and kind of like transitioning into that and like because there's only so much marketing can do, but we still have an impact at revenue at the end of the day.
Yeah. Do you want to quickly go over the difference between MQL and
Gotcha.
SQL? Yeah.
So we typically talk about first things first, it's lead in. So like any lead coming in, if they call, if they submit a form, if they do whatever they want where we can capture data, that's a lead for us. An MQL is a marketing qualified lead where it's pretty much what you're asking for that marketing can qualify before handing it off to sales. So if there's any predefined questions on the form, if the message is in a different language that is not ours, not a qualified lead. So it's just before marketing can hand it off, did marketing do everything that they can do to get a qualified lead? And then SQL is a sales qualified lead. So when sales talks to them, they're good to go. Sales like, I like this lead, give me more of this. And that's typically what we talk about as well is like, if I could show you a marketing qualified lead and you can say, give me more of this lead, that is a qualified lead in my opinion. Even if they're like they didn't buy from you, even if they're like weren't perfect, if you're like I would take 10 times more of these, that is a good lead. That's what we pretty much identify as an MQL.
Yeah. And then talking about a lead versus an SQL, of course, the further down you go, the more qualified you get. But oftentimes you'll see agencies or marketing, they're so focused on getting leads, getting volume, where why would we, and it's one of the things that we do, and why is it that we do it? Why are we really focused on the SQLs?
Yeah, I think like SQLs make money. And like that's at the end of the day is the thing is if I get you a million leads, that's great. But if those million leads turn to zero SQLs, you're not gonna be too happy with me. And like I think that's why it's important, especially for SMBs, to have a clear understanding of what is an MQL for me, what is an SQL for me. Because if we can't generate SQLs, we're never going to get sales. So yes, we can only go so far within marketing, but if an MQL is strong, it should turn into an SQL. But if we're not getting SQLs on anything, everything's going to be thrown off. No revenue is going to come in.
Yeah, and we could get into a huge discussion around like what makes a true MQL versus a vanity metric MQL. Are you subscribing to the newsletter? Okay, great. That just shows intent. Or are you just downloading some sort of piece of content that's completely irrelevant to what the business actually does? So,
Yeah, I think there's like, again, just identifying what your MQLs are. But I think for SMBs, MQL identification and SQL identification are a lot easier
for
because
sure.
they don't have 20 steps to their funnel. Most of the time it's lead comes in, lead is qualified, sales talks to them, they're good, and then they book or they don't book. So
Yeah.
the sales pipeline for SMBs a lot faster, a lot easier, which is good for us as well because then we get instant feedback. Whereas if we're dealing with pipelines that maybe are like 6, 7 months long, we don't get feedback until 7 months. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have to work, you know, it's a lot easier to work really closely with a sales team from a small business because you bring in a lead and they're talking to them and they might be the ones that are actually closing it versus if there's, like you said, a 6 month lead funnel and the pipeline drags on and drags on. Like you might be talking to that first person who's looking at the leads that are coming in, but they might be talking to 2, 3 people on the way through
Yeah.
that deal flow.
Like the BDR calls them, and then the AE calls them, and then the expert calls them, and then they book a demo, and then like the more steps we add to this, the more the fall off is. That's why SMBs typically, because they are small, they can be lean, and if they're lean, they can be fast.
Yeah.
So fast is king, especially in marketing world. That's why as you get kind of to bigger enterprise as well, a lot of stuff gets bloated. There's a lot of stages where it kind of gets clogged up. That's why SMBs can still compete with them, is because they can be fast.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that it's like there's a point of contention between marketing and sales, and when you're bringing in super solid leads and they're not really going anywhere, it can be very frustrating. But then on the other side, if marketing is bringing in a bunch of garbage because they're not focused on the SQL side of things, they're just focusing on leads, then I can see why that would get frustrating from the sales side. But that's why like the intentionality, the conversations we're having behind like being revenue focused, I will say like the way that we work is much more catered towards the sales people at a company because we're actually focusing on an audience or users that are coming in with high intent.
Yeah, I think it changes by person as well, but I think we like to focus more on not the number of leads, but the number of MQLs and SQLs. But like I would prefer not to clog up the sales team. Like even if we could get 1,000 leads, but there's only going to be a couple handful of MQLs and SQLs, sometimes it's not worth it to do that for a sales team because it's like, well, 95% of the leads they give us are terrible. I'm just, fool me once again. It's like I'm not just going to call these people and waste my time because I have a quota to hit and I know the leads that they're giving me. So sometimes it's not good to feed the sales team or overfeed the sales team with bad leads. I know that's kind of just common sense just in general, but we shouldn't be sending them and we should be qualifying them out before it goes to the sales team. That's what the purpose of an MQL is, where it's, you know, they should not even touch the sales team until we can confirm that they are a good lead so that we don't burn the sales team out, but then also we built the trust with the sales team that they go, hey, I can trust these guys. They're going to give me good leads. If I get a lead from them, I'm going to call them right away because it's good.
Yeah. To kind of go on that, it's a little bit of another segue here, but based off that conversation as well, I think it's important to consider that there are key building blocks that need to be in place before you're really heavily investing into marketing. And like we're talking about, like sales needs to be able to talk to these leads, and it's our responsibility to bring in high quality. But at the same time, if my supply is so high of leads that I'm paying X amount of dollars and they're falling off because the sales team can't follow up with them. They don't have the capacity, or a plumber doesn't have enough trucks to actually service the leads that are coming in. It can have a really detrimental effect. So I want to talk about like the different building blocks that need to be in place as you're growing marketing, and like when you should start raising your hand to say, hey, I'm ready to invest in marketing, or I'm ready to bring in Manticore to help us with our marketing service.
Yeah, I think like the number one thing is like the best thing about marketing is the toggles and the levers. Like you can always spend more on marketing. So like you could always start small. You could spend $1,000, $500. If it's working for you, it's working for you. That's the main thing that we always want to kind of focus on is the amount of money you spend doesn't matter as long as you're ROI positive. If you're happy spending $500 a month and you're making somehow $5,000 a month from that, good, great. If you don't want to change it, you don't have to, as long as it's positive. But just know that you have those levers that you can turn, that you can spend $1,000 and hopefully make 95, $10,000 from that, where it's good like that. So I think just focusing on that as well of why marketing is so important for this. But I'll kind of give you back to the question as well, Pat.
Yeah, well, I think if I'm making 10x on $500, I will
There you
raise my
go.
budget for sure.
Hopefully.
Definitely.
We,
So,
we've seen it. We've seen it not happen as
yeah,
well. And like, there's fixed costs. There's everything else. There's budgets. Now we've worked with every level of marketing person. So juniors to managers to directors to CMOs to everything else, owners, whatever else it is. So you're always kind of in charge of like someone's in charge of you typically, even if it's the budget that's in charge of you. So we have to follow it. So again, the whole point is to go, we are predictable. We can make the money from this and then grow and scale from that.
yeah, and that goes back to the building blocks. Like you might be limited by a bunch of different factors. You might not have the team for it. You might not have the budget for it. You might not have X, Y, Z. So there's definitely things that I would say need to be in place before you're actually investing in marketing. But then on top of that, once marketing becomes successful, you need to unlock certain things before we can start pulling additional levers or increasing budget. For example, like if you don't have a good sales process, if you're not able to bring in these SQLs to actually turn them into customers, that's very difficult to start investing in marketing because then you're just filling a bucket with a big hole at the bottom and you're just continuously emptying it out. There's, and I think this applies a little bit more to like B2B or like a service where if you have really bad retention, if you're bringing in clients and they're leaving after 3 months or the product isn't working very well or different things like that, you don't want to be investing so much in marketing because once again, you're bringing people in for a cost and then you're actually losing them pretty quickly. You should focus on other things. So, transparently, we could say, hey, just invest more in marketing, but we're not that type of business. We want to see the business succeed. And sometimes we understand that you need to invest in other things before putting money behind marketing, before investing in an agency like ours.
Yeah, I think marketing is really good at becoming a spotlight for like where the holes are, because once you start spending money externally and there's a cost per lead amount, and then it's like, hey, wait a minute, we're losing these leads after 2 months, but we're paying this much money for them. It really kind of highlights what's going wrong with the business. And that's the thing as well, like I said, with marketing with levers, is we can slow it down, we could speed it up. So if we patch the holes, it's like, okay, great, let's if it's working now, let's just run with it. But it's good at identifying like, okay, maybe we don't have the strongest MQL to SQL cycle. Maybe we get 1,000 SQLs a month, but we only close two. Why is that the case? And like we can really highlight that. And as marketing comes in, and I think we've seen this a lot from the stuff that we've done as well, Pat, is because we start tracking everything, we find the holes a lot easier because now we know exactly what's happening. And like we're listening to some of the calls, we're going in and like looking through like we want to make sure that our leads are closing now. So we're going and looking for those leads and what happened to them. And now we kind of have a story to tell and like look for the reasons for this, the causation of this. So it just like again, big spotlight on the holes within the bucket.
Yeah, yeah. In all these conversations, we're to constantly come back to tracking and make sure you have good visibility on your data because that's how important it is to us. All the work that you're doing, you need visibility. You need to understand what's going on because you can make the right decisions based off of that data. I wanted to talk also, we've had a lot of talk about like, bringing in leads, performance, and an established business that's able to bring in new business through marketing. But there's also those businesses that are a little bit earlier in their growth stage where they're needing to establish their image. They're needing to build certain things to get them to the next step to be able to bring in those customers. And it is something that we do. And a lot of it comes back to like SEO and building the brand and building the website. And how important is that for a business? And there are established businesses that just don't have a good website. So I just want to talk about like the importance of building that out and having a really solid foundation on the marketing side.
Yeah, I think just understanding your sales process is definitely super, super important. And if it's early days as well, like being a champion of your community, just like finding out how to get referrals, having business cards. I feel like a website's super important. And there's a lot of free tools out there as well to get a website early days as well. A lot of cheap tools, a lot of templates you can get. There's a lot of things you can do. And the cool thing about websites is they can be upgraded. You could buy a these Toyota and then just soup it out a couple years later if you want to. Like it could be a rust bug, it could be horrible when you first start, but it's better to have something than have nothing. And especially like for that, having a domain, when the domains age like wine. So the longer they are there, the more powerful they become. So we want to make sure that we buy a domain early days. We want to make sure we have something online so stuff is getting indexed. The longer stuff is indexed as well, the better it's going to be. So just having these things early, and like I'm talking relatively low cost. You could probably set up like Squarespace, Wix, and like we don't suggest this long term, but at the beginning it doesn't matter. It's just about having a place so people can go to you and find you and a place for them to go so they can contact you.
Yeah, you don't want to be doing door to door in the marketing sense. You want to have a storefront that people can come to you. And when the referrals start coming around, when you have a salesperson that's looking for business, it's really a storefront. It's your image, it's your brand that you're building, and you have all these little lead magnets to capture business. It could be your phone number, it could be a form, it could be a place to put all your content. And as marketing grows, as you start working with agencies, as you start, bringing in marketing people, everything is going to fall back to that website. It's really going to be your foundation for growth on the marketing side.
Yeah, an old manager of mine always used to call it just your online business card.
Yeah.
So, it's something that just like you can hand out, give it away, like, hey, go see my website if you have any questions. It's just super easy to do like that. start getting traffic there. And then it's really easy for them to refer you out as well because they don't actually have to have physical business cards to hand out. They can just go, oh, you need a plumber, oh, you need a financial audit, oh, you need this, whatever it is. Go to this website, they can handle it.
Yeah,
So it's really easy to hand out.
yeah, exactly. And now, in terms of rolling out marketing, things can be different depending on the industry that you're working in. There's things that are more important for a local business versus a B2B business or a small and medium. When it comes to making a decision as to where you want to invest in marketing, how does that differ depending on the type of business that you're working in?
Yeah. So we talk about the 4 Ps of marketing. There are in textbook through college, the 4 Ps of marketing, which is different, but we have our own 4 Ps of marketing. I would say that we've kind of just, we have to make simplified. And essentially what the 4 Ps are on our side is essentially just categorizations of businesses where it's almost a playbook. So the first one is panic. So it's emergency services. It's like, I need something right away. So that's for B2B, that's for local, that's for whatever else it is. Let's say a pipe burst, let's say a tree falls on your house, let's say anything along the lines of that. It's a million degrees outside and all the AC stopped working. That happened this summer. And we saw that happen a lot with a lot of our clients. Emergency calls, I need someone to fix my AC right away. It's 45 Celsius in my house right now. I'm burning up. Same for the winter, for the heaters when they go down. So when we talk about panic, essentially it's where are people going to go to find you? It's going to be Google. They're not going to go on Facebook and scroll around looking for a plumber, emergency plumber. They're not going to go, you know, whatever it is. It is, 911. I need this right away. I need this solved. I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to click on the first person that I see and I'm going to call them. Typically, there's not going to wait for a form because they don't have time to wait for a form. So the emergency is there. They're going to call you. So call tracking, great. SEO, great. And then paid ads through Google Ads, Bing Ads, whatever kind of search platform you have. So that's kind of our panic playbook that we just kind of like have pushing forward for most of our clients because we know that that's the main way people come in. And that's how all these 4 Ps are kind of structured is how do people come in and find you and what matters to them. I'll go through them very quickly as well. Professional, that's like dentists, lawyers, anything else like that, where it's like what really matters is image. You don't want a goofy lawyer. You don't want a goofy doctor or dentist, like he's cutting out your your wisdom teeth and you're like, oh, I go to him not because he's the best. I go to him because he's the funniest. Can happen, but at the end of the day, it's like you want to go to someone that you can trust, and that's where professional comes in. You can do LinkedIn ads, Google ads is still good as well. Typically, it's about showing referrals, showing reviews. You have a good reputation, showing that you have a license for the thing that you're doing as well. Super important, but it's just talking about how much you know about the service or how much you know about the stuff. So that's professional. Personal is that I don't go to my hairdresser because he's the best hairdresser in the world. I go to my hairdresser because I have a good time and the job is good enough. Same thing like for dog groomers, same thing for anything along the lines where it's like a personal business. Facebook works really well because you can show off the personality, you can show off image ads, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. It's mainly B2C on the personal side, and professional typically is on the B2B, but professional is also on the B2C side, again, like for lawyers and dentists and whatnot. And then last but not least, product reviews. How are you showing them off? Shopping network on Google Ads, Facebook ads works really well as well, depending on the product you're selling. LinkedIn can work for B2B products. The list goes on, but we kind of have these playbooks for each one because we just understand if people are looking for this thing, how are they looking for this thing? Okay, we know that it's a panic play, so then we just go ahead and do it like that, or a professional play. So then we just like, okay, we're gonna run that play. It's almost like a playbook we have like football.
Yeah. It's a really interesting way to approach and like categorize things because you need to take the intent of the user into consideration when building out your marketing tactics, your marketing strategies. Like there's a lot of things to take into consideration and things that you market for. And like you said, you're marketing for being available or being the best option when somebody is in that panic stage. Or you're building trust through education, through you showcasing the value of the product, of your service, the reviews. So you really have to put yourself in the mind of your potential customer and to understand, okay, how are they spending their time online? What kind of actions are they going to take and what's their intent? Intent is just such a big keyword for us when it comes to building out our marketing. And that's why we talk to our clients. We understand their business. We don't just have one playbook that is kind of a blanket approach for all clients. It really does change from client to client. And not only does it change from client to client, there are some clients within the same field that take different approaches based off what works for them. One client in the local services might have really great reputation and base a lot of their work off of reviews and take like a longer term approach, a slow burn where they're growing their network, they're getting a lot of referrals versus another one where I'm the number one option. I'm going off of price. I'm making sure that I'm the first results on any search channel. There's just a lot of different approaches and different things work well for different clients.
Yeah, and like just offering different promotions as well for different businesses and like what do clients resonate with? Free inspection for local businesses typically the given. Like if you can get in their house or on their roof or whatever else it is, there's a high likelihood that you'll then sell them. So like we look at the other side of it as well of like if we can get you 10 times more leads for free inspection and we know that 70% of free inspections turn into a business deal, it makes way more sense for us to focus on free inspection than focus on anything else. And that goes for almost anything along the B2B side and SMB side, where it's just like if we have an in that's easier, that we know that the conversion rate is there. And that's again why tracking matters so much. Because if the conversion rate is there from step one to step two, we can then beat them. We beat it out, so it's just faster for us to turn them into a sale as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think also to take into consideration how long, and I know we mentioned it before, but to take into consideration how long that process takes, because when it comes to a decision by the user, if I visit your website 5 times before I make a purchase or before I become a customer, it's going to be very different than if I click an ad and I click a phone number to convert. You're going to take different actions. You're going to talk to them in different ways. You're going to be taking your approach to marketing in a much more aggressive way or in a much more direct way. It's going to change your ads. It's going to change your messaging. It's going to change your copy, your website, everything.
Would love to hear some examples there, Pat, if you can, for maybe some clients that we worked with in the past, or just some just general examples.
For sure. I think there's like a few different examples when it comes to B2B. I've worked a lot in the B2B space, and there's quite a big difference between like product led and sales led. A product led, you might go on a website and be able to start a free trial for a month to use a certain product or app. And that's a really good entry point because you get your hands in there and you have really good visibility. Those typically apply to something that's, individual use. So it might be an app that I'm using on the computer or it's a part of my day-to-day work. Um, and then it becomes, a $30 a month or $100 a month, or it's something that you integrate well, versus sales led or versus something that's a little bit more complex where it's large deal sizes. It might apply to the entirety of the business. I need an entire buying committee, get my C levels and get my directors involved in making those decisions. I need to look at budget. There's a lot more to take into consideration. Well, if that's the fact, I'm going to need to talk to a lot more people. I'm going to have to get a demo. I'm going to check legal to get things going. I'm not just going to run one ad hoping that they're going to buy on the spot. I'm going to trust. I'm going to do so many other things.
Yeah, I think there's something kind of funny as well where it's like if you don't have the best price, typically for SaaS, the number one thing you do is ask for pricing, where it's like that's the main conversion where that's coming through is just you can kind of step back where it's like we know we're not the best price, but that's not what we're going to highlight. We're going to highlight everything else, and then we're going to make them ask for pricing. And then the qualification between that, you're going to lose probably 80% of your people. And I'm not really a fan of that.
Yeah.
I'm really not a fan of hiding pricing because it like you're like, well, I don't really want to ask for pricing because is it $100 a month or is it $10,000 a month? There's nothing that really tells me. So just having an indication of like starting price is this, ask for pricing for everything else, just to have it like, okay, it's in ballpark, or if it's like completely all Zoom info, for example, I've asked for pricing probably 20 times and I've gotten different pricing every single time. Love Zoom info, but I would really love some clear pricings to be able to give that for our ABM clients.
Yeah, I think we've all been there in terms of like getting on a demo and then having to pull teeth to get the pricing out. And then, you sit
45
through
minutes later.
yeah, you sit through an entire demo and then you get the price and you're like, wait, that makes no sense. I'm looking for, something to use on a day-to-day basis myself. And it's, I have to sign a thousands of dollars
Yeah,
contract.
your contract, I've never even tried it out before. I'm just hoping it's good,
Yeah,
which is
it's tough.
tough.
And kind of going off the rails here, but what other ways do businesses outside of price really help promote that they are like a good option? Let's say, like, if you're not going to win on price, which is often one way that you do things when it comes to trying to be the best in local, or trying to fight on price, what are other options you have to really win out against other customers?
Yeah, I always every time I think of that, I think of the triangle where it's like price, speed, and quality. It's like choose two.
Yeah.
So like you can obviously have some different variations there. I think a lot for like local businesses or SMBs, like it's customer service. I think most of the time we've dealt with the massive Fortune 500 enterprises that we talk to their customer service and like we're ripping our hair out at the end of the day. Whereas a local business, it's like we might be paying more. We're talking to a real human being and we're talking to someone that we want to be talking to, and it feels like we're getting the attention that we deserve. And I think that's coming back a lot more in a serious way, where that's like matters more and more with the push of AI and AI bots, where it's like people are just screaming into their phone because they do not want to be talking to AI anymore. So having the touch points on the customer service side, definitely number one. Price is definitely a very important for most people, but I don't think a lot of the businesses are going to be like quadruple the price, triple the price, even double the price. I think it's going to be like instead of $100 an hour, it's 110, 120. So it's just a bit more, but then you get more quality in that sense as well. I think product, like if the product is different, customer service, speed, how fast you can get out there, how fast you can get it done, and then just in terms of quality, I think as well. Just like how good is the actual service being done or product that you're getting, and then obviously outcome. You know, if you're paying way less, but you have to get it done 4 or 5 times, or you have to call back so many times because every single time they messed it up, you're eventually going to leave for something more expensive but better.
Yeah. I want to talk about the balance of speed versus quality. And oftentimes, doing things fast is extremely valuable when it comes to building marketing, when it comes to a local business or for B2B. Everybody's heard this expression, but that like perfection is the killer of productivity, or I don't know what the exact quote is. But how do you balance that speed versus building things out with the quality that you're looking for? And when is it more important to focus on speed versus quality, or the other way around?
Yeah, I think it just depends on like what the goal is and like what the actual like intended outcome of the task is. I think especially for marketing in a sense, because a lot of times it's better to have something than have nothing. But if it's your first impression, so like let's say we're doing a massive campaign and there's a lot of budget behind it, I'd rather spend the time on it and give a really high quality because the budget's behind it as well. That we don't go fast, we go slow, but we make sure that everything is perfect because we only have one chance for a first impression. Let's say a Super Bowl ad, obviously we're going to spend a whole bunch of time on that. Whereas we're doing a flyer for 100 people, maybe just get something out, see what happens. Maybe we're doing just like a quick, maybe just a podcast. We want to just do a quick quaff. We just do something fast. It's you can see if stuff works. It just depends like the investment into it and the expected outcome of it. So like if we would spend 20 hours on this versus 10 hours on this, is it going to double our outcome? If you're like, not really, like let's say you're making a brochure, you're like, okay, I could spend 10 more hours perfecting it, but it's probably going to give me like one more call. Is that one call worth the 10 hours? The answer might be yes. It could be.
And
Depends what business you're in. But like,
true.
if you're like in lawn care and it's like, I'm paying an agency, a design agency, whatever it is, $2,000 more to make these changes, and I expect one extra call, it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe not worth it.
Yeah. I think like one thing to take into consideration is, are you working on something that you can reiterate,
Yeah.
put out a bunch of different versions? If I'm writing a blog, or if I've got a newsletter, I'm going to want to get more out there because I'll, first of all, get feedback. All not only from the people that are interacting with my marketing, but the data with how many clicks, how many, everything that we're tracking. Again, coming back to tracking versus building a keystone piece of content, a large video, like you said, for, a TV ad or a large campaign, there's different approaches to it. The problem is if you're not putting out enough in terms of marketing and all you're focusing on is like one big swing and you're going for a home run, you're kind of taking the risk that it's like all or nothing. I would highly suggest build fast, have quality and intent, and get things going, because it's better to have, you know, let's take an example of being social media. It's better to have a post a day for an entire month, because that 30th, 31st post will be really good, than to have one post that you spent all month building. Even if it is really good, one of those 30 posts might have popped off and gotten really good quality. You've improved over time. You're actually showing up more often. There's just like so many reasons why you should just get something out there. Just be intentional about it and don't do it for no reason.
Yeah, I think it, like as well, like learning, can you learn from it faster by doing it versus spending more time on it? So like launching a social post and going, oh, well, this didn't really perform that well. Why did it not perform well? You're learning faster by doing than learning faster by then reiterating. So instead of reiterating, just do more of it and you might learn faster from it as well. And I think again, like if the impact is low, work as fast as you can. If the impact is high, spend the time to the quality.
Totally, totally. And you know what? Like you've done it a bunch of times, or it's something that you're really knowledgeable about. Okay, put in the effort, take the time. If you're learning as you go, like just fall forward, you know?
Yeah, and it's okay to fail as well because if there's low impact. Like if the job is on the line, we're going to lose a bunch of money if we don't get this done. Spend the time, but if it's like it doesn't really matter, I'm just seeing if it works. Do something fast, see if it works. If there's any remnants of success, do more of it or reiterate or do anything else. Facebook ads is a good example. Don't spend 30 hours building the perfect ad. Spend 10 hours making 4 good ads and then see which one works the best.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. I'm doing another segue. I think for this portion of this podcast, I'd love to talk about what we're doing specifically here with this podcast to be like as transparent as possible, what our intent is, what value we see from a podcast and what we get out of it. So going back from like, we're just going fast, we're building, we're trying to get this going. This can likely could be a first episode or we're going to pull clips from it. But I'm curious to know from your end, I've got my own opinions and there's so much that can come out of it, but why a podcast?
Yeah, I think like it is a podcast, yes, but at the end of the day, it's like I don't think we're sitting on the couch with the microphones talking about random stuff. I think it's we kind of have what we want to be talking about, but at the end of the day, it's a couple of reasons, and I think the first one is we were doing our own social media and we were spending hours making posts, whereas just talking like this, I think has more impact, has more drive, and then also can touch more people in the sense of like they can actually understand what we're saying rather than like having a super long post that will take 10 times the amount of time to make than just doing this entire, I don't know, hour long podcast. Secondarily, GEO. I'll let you talk about that in a little bit, Pat, just not take every single one of the points. I think thirdly is clip farming as well. I think with the push of AI, having real people talking about real things is more important than like just doing an AI image post every single week. I think having real faces that you can see and like we're the ones working on these people's accounts as well. So like just putting the one to one and like building the kind of relationships there. But then also I think it's about partnership as well. So like finding these people like you, me, Rob, everyone else on the team as well. Pat, like we have all these crazy smart people in our network. So like just one being able to talk to them and having a reason to talk to them is going to be fun. But I think secondarily is just like sharing their knowledge with everybody within our network and then expanding to their networks as well is super important. Love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think there's so many different reasons why a podcast is great, especially for a marketing agency. Geez, let me go down the list. I think the first thing that we're trying to get across to, potential customers, partners and things is giving thought leadership, helping people understand that like, okay, we actually do know what we're talking about and we're providing value. We're going to work on getting better and better at both the formatting of our podcast, making it actually like captivating, making sure that we're on trend and we're talking about things that people are interested in listening to. But not only that, they're listening and they're like, hey, I would like to either potentially become a customer and, use these services, or I can take this as a marketing expert and action them. Maybe you're starting in your marketing career. Maybe you're working at one of these companies that we're talking about, or maybe you're just like at another agency and you're just looking for additional resources. There's so much that we can do by just talking about different things. For example, GEO. One of the reasons we're doing this is because GEO is kind of the future of SEO. It's SEO will become GEO eventually. There's always going to be, a distinction between the two. But we truly believe that, as we were talking earlier in the episode, that marketing has changed from these traditional tactics to what we see today. Well, tomorrow, I think GEO is going to be like one of the big next steps. And that simply means like we want to have AI discoverability. And by doing this, it's actually going to help with AI discoverability. When people are using these LLMs to do their research, they're in a panic and or they're looking for the best XYZ service in my location, or different tools or apps to use for this specific use case. I'm already doing it. I'm using it on these AI platforms. Well, the reason why a podcast works so well is when we upload this episode onto a platform like YouTube and we have a transcript in place, that is a really solid spot that AI platforms like ChatGPT or any of the other ones, they go and they actually look through those transcripts to get their answers. There's a lot of different spots that AI takes from, but we took into consideration like, hey, we weren't doing video yet. And as we're talking, we're throwing in a lot of keywords, a lot of questions and answers about marketing, about the services that we're working on. And in full transparency, we want Manticore Marketing to be discoverable on these AI platforms to offer these services, or at least to, get in that world.
Yeah, I think it's a practice what you preach as well, because we are telling a lot of our clients it's almost fivefold. We can use this in multiple things. So we can use it on LinkedIn. That's probably where we're seeing this right now. We can use it on YouTube. It will go onto GEO. We can use it for snippets. Our sales team can use it for the clips as well to go like, hey, watch our team talk about that if you're interested. Like it's just a really easy one-to-one. And then just also the thought leadership and building ourselves up as experts. But then also it's fun and we love talking to people as well. So I think it's just a good creative outlet as well. And if you give us an hour to talk, we're going to talk for the whole hour. So I think that's kind of it as well.
Yeah, we were doing it anyways. Like we kept catching ourselves going 30 minutes over, an hour over, because we're just like diving into these conversations, oftentimes going off beat and talking about things that have nothing to do with work. Which, hey, maybe we'll end up doing it on these
If it
episodes.
happens, it happens.
Yeah, if it happens, it happens. But I just think, like me as a podcast listener, I really do enjoy listening to thought leaders, to experts that might have different perspectives, that might be in an industry that I'm not in and do things a different way, or are bringing up things that are trending that I haven't taken into consideration, especially since you kind of fall into your routine. You have your own best practices and you might kind of have blinders on. So listening to this type of content really does help. I follow a bunch of different marketing podcasts. I think the community building is fantastic, and we're going to be reaching out to a bunch of people to get them in here for sure.
And I think that's another thing is listening, right? So it's something you can do while you're doing other things as well. I feel like reading is a very active action, whereas listening you can be doing while you're going for a walk, taking the dog out, at the gym. Hopefully you're not listening to this while you're working out too much, but there's a lot of things you can do while you're listening to a podcast, whereas reading is a very like, I need to sit down and like it's an hour long. So like realistic, if we transcribe this is going to be probably 20-ish blog posts. You don't have time to read 20 blog posts. We know you're a busy marketer, you're a busy owner, whatever else it is. So we want to make sure that we can kind of have an outlet and have the media source where it's the easiest for you to consume the media as well. And then again, it's just, we're already doing this anyways.
Yeah. And I think the last point I want to make about like the value of a podcast is I think this is like a really good way to build foundational content. So to have like your keystone piece of content that you can build upon, like Mike mentioned, like you can pull a lot of content from something like this. We have an hour of conversations where we're talking about a multitude of different topics. We have a transcript. We have, our faces, the faces of the people that you're going to be working with to build a little bit more of that relationship of that trust. But look, we can build social posts. We can build clips. We can get that on social media, on YouTube, shorts. We can have blog articles about certain topics. Also, what's nice is the more we do this, And for other podcasters out there, for other content writers out there, whatever it may be, this is just our format. You put this out and you get feedback. And based off of that feedback, some people might be asking questions. Some people might be tuning into a specific portion or like reading specific articles from this post, or we're seeing more traction on certain things. It's like, hey, like we just talked for an hour and people love the 15 minutes we talked about GEO. Okay, well, let's dive deeper into GEO because we know that there's engagement. We know that there's interest. So it's like a constant feedback loop of you build content, you see what works, you build upon it, repurpose, restructure. There's a lot that can be done from here.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's where we'll leave it.